And we are live. Hello, everyone. This is Kevin T. Rodriguez, film critic of iCritic.net. You are joining us with iCritic Live. And today we have an interview with Stu Showtek. Oh, did I mess his name? You all know I'm bad. Yeah, Showtek. Sorry. And Stu runs a podcast called Stu's Show. He is a TV archivist and historian. And he is the subject of a new documentary called, Stu's show as well. Please welcome to iCritic Live, Stu. Hello, Stu.
Show stack. There's an
Show
S.
Stack.
Show stack.
I am notoriously bad with names.
That's all right, Irving. It's nice to meet you.
Yes, it's actually worse when I go to a friend and I mess up their name and they're like, "Dude, we've known each other for 20 years now." It's like, "I'm sorry." Here's the funny thing, because I'm a film critic and I don't take notes during movies. This is a fun story for you guys. I watch the movie and I memorize it all in my head, and I can write a review based on everything in my head, except for I need to have the IMDb page next to me because I never remember the characters' names. So I'll be describing a scene, then it's like, okay, whose character is that? Oh, it was Steve, played by John Cusack. So that's my method. Anyway, how are you doing today, Stu?
I'm doing fine, Kevin. How are you?
I'm doing fine, and my wife is watching the show. Hi, honey. Hi,
Your
Stu.
wife and I have developed a little tete-a-tete. I didn't know you people. You didn't know me. And all of a sudden, I feel like we're old friends because of your wife.
Exactly. So let me explain how that happened. So being a film critic, I get tons of screeners, and I actually get more documentary screeners than any other screener out there. And most of them are frankly depressing. Like, you watch some of these documentaries and it's like, oh my gosh, I feel terrible about the world. Like, I feel like I should not be living anymore. But I get this email and it has a screener link for something called Stu Story. And the way they were selling it was that meet the guy who had a unique relationship with Lucille Ball in the final days of her life. And it's like, oh, I Love Lucy. We all love I Love Lucy. And I tell my wife, like, hey, honey, we have a I Love Lucy documentary to watch. And she's like, oh, is it going to be good? It's like, I hope so. I hope I don't feel bad about Lucy afterwards. But yeah, let's watch it. And so we watched it. And for the record, it was a charming, charming movie. It kind of turned into something completely different than what I was expecting halfway through, which we'll talk about later. And it was one of the few movies that Katie, my wife, felt so good about. She's like, I felt so good watching that movie. And she's like, I'm going to go look for Stu on Facebook. And she then came up and said, hey, I found Stu on Facebook and we're friends now. And I'm like, you're what? She was actually like talking about the things apparently you talk a lot on Facebook. And she was saying all these things you said. And it's like, well, geez, honey, I'm glad Stu's nice. It was very interesting.
Yeah, the only people that I've heard from so far are people like you or people related in some way to film critics like you are, and it's all women. It's all women that are seeking me out who saw the film one way or another because either their boyfriend is a film critic or their relative is a film critic. I'm not hearing from too many males. It's all women, and they're all like saying, you're great, you're wonderful, you're terrific. It's like, well, where were you when I was 18, 19, 20 years old and when wanted a girlfriend? Now that I'm happily married and been with the same woman for 15 years, now you tell me how great I am? I guess this film just has that effect on women. I had no idea what to expect when C.J. Wallace, the filmmaker, said, I want to do this. I want to do this as a documentary because your life is so interesting, working with Lucille Ball and then going on to do the audience warm-ups and doing your classic TV show on the internet. And then, meeting, as a result of that, meeting the woman finally in your life that loved you for you and all of that. And so then I thought, okay, now I'm starting to see why all these women are contacting me on Facebook and saying I'm their hero and all this kind of stuff. It never dawned on me that maybe the demographic for this film is going to be women are going to walk away going, wow, that was a great film. Just a thought. I know nothing about this stuff. So you're the critic. Criticize. Go ahead.
I think a lot of men will also like the film, but here's why. And just because we are supposed to be promoting the movie. That's what it looks like, folks. You can tune in on May 2nd. Get it? Tune in. It's an old phrase. Anyway, here's the thing. The movie has an interesting hook because, you've had a very interesting life. You were a warm-up guy. You knew Lucille Ball in her final days. And something I want to definitely talk about later, you saved some classic TV stuff because you had to jump in the dumpsters to find it. Like some people, and this is actually something that I always fear about, like kind of with the current streaming age where people are like, oh, streaming's great. Everyone can just put it all up in the internet. And it's like, yeah, but I get nervous because some of that old stuff, it takes up hard drive space. And if people aren't streaming it, I wouldn't put it past a studio to basically just delete it and free it up if no one's watching it. And then
you've got a very good reason to feel that way. That's why I like tangible things. I still buy Blu-rays.
Yes, I still buy Blu-rays. Also, I think it's just fun. You can't see it, but over here I have like a shelf of all the Best Picture winners on DVD, Blu-ray, 4K. I even bought a For Your Consideration screener of Coda just so that it would be complete because I don't want to lose any of it. That's
right. And unless you have Apple Plus, you haven't seen it.
So. Right. And if Apple Plus decides they don't want to do movies anymore, what happens to their library? It just gets really concerning, especially like I think the first time it really bothered me, it was always in the back of my mind, but the first time it bothered me was I saw that story about how like Disney had removed a post-credit scene in Toy Story 2 because, they had just gone through this thing with John Lasseter, and we're not going to get into the politics of that, but basically they took out a casting couch gag. And I had bought those Blu-ray 3Ds years before this had happened, redeemed the digital codes, and I went on my Vudu. It's like I redeemed them years ago, went to the end, and sure enough, even though those copies had been redeemed years ago, the joke wasn't there anymore. They had altered the film without my consent. I mean, somebody's like, well, you're acting like it's your film. Well, yeah, I paid for it. I mean, I consider it my copy.
Right. But they control the stream and they can do whatever they want with it. And if you read the tiny, tiny print when you buy one of those digital online versions, and again, you got it because you bought the Blu-ray, you did the right thing. They can do whatever they want. It's like buying a condo. You're basically buying air. When you buy a condo, you're part of a building, you're part of a conglomerate that somebody else controls. And it's the same with this.
Right. Never mind the Michael Jackson Simpsons episode that I still have on DVD and Disney can't touch it. But that's why this movie was a hook. It's like, yeah, I am interested in things like that. I think a lot of people are going to be interested in that. And then at one point you meet the woman who would eventually become your wife because she had a huge love of I Love Lucy and these old shows, and it was cute. And then the movie takes, I would say, a very unexpected turn where she gets very sick and has to go to the hospital. And now it's not a show about a guy who has like this cool podcast and has films in his room. It becomes like a story of someone who has someone he cares about very deeply, who needs proper medical care. And the hospital system it's actually interesting to watch this movie and see that the hospital system has not improved that greatly in a very long time.
Let me just say something at the outset, okay? Because I don't want the medical industry is not going to be happy with this film, and they shouldn't be. They should reform themselves. Right. But I want to say this at the outset, and we can talk about anything you want, good or bad, about what I went through with her. There are wonderful doctors and wonderful nurses and wonderful therapists who do care. But you have to cut through the crap to get to them. You have to make the bureaucracy, the red tape part of that, aware that you're not going to take no for an answer unless it makes sense. And there are so many people in the world that just say, okay, let them do it. I can't do anything. That's wrong. If you strongly want your loved one to get well, you can emerge victoriously if you learn how to play the system. And I knew none of this. Before it started, Kevin, I knew none of this. It's on-the-job training, and I got it forced down my throat, and I didn't like it at all, but I learned how to do it, and I don't think she'd be alive today if I didn't learn that. So it can be done. That's all I want to say. There's, like in every business, there's wonderful people out there. You just have to learn to get to them.
Right. Well, and you're probably right. She might not be alive today, but this is where I think women particularly like the film, because at this point, the movie isn't about an archivist who's collecting I Love Lucy promos and stuff like that. It becomes about a man who's fighting for the love of his life and to get her the care she needs. And I mean, here's the thing. It was quite moving to me because I don't know if Katie told you, she has Crohn's disease, and I've had to have a few battles with doctors myself, unfortunately. There's some very good ones out there, you are right. But there have been some situations where it's like, does it need to be this difficult? Can we just...
Well, and again, let me also say this. It's a business, just like anything else. And the business is there to make money. And these are people who are trained by the system that see lots and lots of patients day in, day out. It's not the same thing to them. They see pain. They see suffering. They see horrible cancer. They see this day after day after day. And I'm not going to say they're immune to it, but they learn to deal with it in a way that we, as newbies, just trying to help our loved ones survive, they see it in a totally different way. So I'm not going to say immune. They get used to it. So it's not the same for them. They're telling people every day that they're sick and they may not recover. And you've got to make it clear to them that you're not going to just settle for that. You want to make sure that your loved one gets the best. And it is tough. I feel for your wife if she's got Crohn's disease. That's awful. That's a terrible thing. I just got over a week of stomach flu, which is a mild case of that. And it ain't fun. I did 3 or 4 of these interviews sick as a dog, and I couldn't let anybody know. I'm sitting here on the set of my talk show like nothing is. I feel great today, though, Kevin. I'm not acting. I want you to know I'm over it. So the point is that whatever business you're in, if you're a lawyer, if you're, in fast food, whatever, there's going to be good people and there's going to be bad. So I don't want everybody to walk away from this film thinking the medical industry sucks. To a certain extent, it does. But there's a way to cut through that suckiness and make it work for you. That's the reason I did the film. I didn't do the film to show off that I knew Lucille Ball the last 10 years of her life. I didn't do the film to show off that I've got this great talk show that I do. I did the film to show people that they can work the system if they know how to do it, and they can emerge victoriously. And you can ask CJ, the filmmaker. That's the only reason I agreed to do the film. I want to help people out there deal with this, because now I'm 65, my wife is 66, and we're coming into an era now where we're going to need to rely on the medical system more and more, and they're going to do it my way, not their way. They're going to do it my way. And after they see this film, I don't think I'll get an argument on that. So
you probably will not. They'll probably watch this movie and go like, yeah, this guy's a pain in the ass.
They said that during the ordeal.
I'm sure they did. But so anyway, needless to say, that's kind of the power of this movie. And I think that's one of the reasons she responded to it so well. I mean, now the good thing is like, it's not like she didn't enjoy the first half. And I think a lot of people enjoy the first half because of Lucy, because who doesn't love I Love Lucy? I even still remember the very first time I saw I Love Lucy, where I was. I remember we were on a Disneyland vacation. It was a non-Disneyland day, and I was just scrolling through TV, and there was this black and white show. It's weird. As a kid, I don't watch black and white stuff. I mean, I want to punch that kid now, but at the time, I didn't watch black and white stuff. But there was just something charming about it. So I was watching it, and then everyone probably knows I'm talking about. They couldn't get chickens to lay eggs, and they put the eggs in their blouse and everything. And guess what? There needed to be a tango. And I remember when the crunch happened, I think my parents were concerned I was laughing so hard at that whole thing. And I think I said, this is the greatest show ever. I don't know what it is, but I love it.
You know what's funny about that is that of all the episodes they did, you picked one of the classics. You happened to see one of the classics and one of the last of the half-hour shows they did. That is so ironic, but you got hooked the same way as Janine talks about in the documentary, as she got hooked. Hers was a different episode, but this BS about kids not watching black and white, for whatever reason, if it's entertaining, if it's funny, if it's good, they'll watch. They may, like you did, they may hem and haws black and white, but how long did it take you to get hooked? A minute, 2 minutes?
I'd say 45 seconds. It wasn't very
Okay.
long.
Case closed. Your witness, Your Honor.
Yeah, and I also have to say I thank you, Lucy, because that was when, after it was done, I started going like, what am I missing? Am I missing all this great entertainment that I won't watch just because it's in black and white? And my dad was not going to let an opportunity go the way, so he's like, so, son, if I'll let you watch your first PG-rated movie when we get home, if you want to see another black and white film. We don't normally let you watch PG-rated films. We come from a pretty Christian family, but I will make an exception this time. And I was like, yes, and I will do it. And that movie was Casablanca. And well,
talk about a 180 in the other direction from I Love Lucy. How old were you, first of all?
I was probably 7.5.
And did you like Casablanca? Did you understand it at that age?
I actually did. And actually, here's a true blessing. Most people do not get to have this blessing. I was not familiar with the ending, so I truly did not know what was going to happen. But I was like, oh my gosh, who's she going to pick? Seems silly because even people who have never seen Casablanca knows how that movie ends, but because it's such a famous ending. But
sure,
I had been sheltered to the point where I did not know.
Well,
and
you're 7.5, Kevin.
I know, and there was and really the internet was just getting started back then. So
yeah,
but I mean, but then the funny thing was, after the movie ended, my first thought was actually like, oh, so that's what Carrot Blanca was all about.
You're comparing it to the Bugs Bunny cartoon.
Yes.
Okay. Well, but it's 7.5. There's your first review. There you go.
My first review.
No, but this is so encouraging to me, Kevin. What are you, 35? How old are you?
I'm 36.
Okay. See, I had you pegged pretty close. This is so encouraging to me because I'm fearful that after my generation leaves this planet, that all of this stuff that I love is going to be long forgotten. And to find somebody like you who saw Casablanca at 7.5, I wouldn't have sat through the first 5 minutes of it. So this is so refreshing and so great to hear that there are people like you that are half my age that are going to pick up the torch and carry it on. I'm thrilled with this. Thank you so much.
Yep. And in fact, since we're on the Casablanca subject, I used to go to for years, I went to my pastor's house every Monday, and I would bring movies over, and they had kids that were younger than me. The youngest was Joey. He was 8 years old. He's now 18. It's been a while. And one of the first old movies I brought over was Casablanca. And the kids sat down and watched it, and they all loved it. And even Joey.
Wow. I am blown away by this.
Yes.
I am blown away by this.
Yep. And and it was just I always told them, and so then I would introduce them to other classic films like Letter to Three Wives and
holy cow,
and Rebecca. And actually, here's a funny thing, because I brought over The Artist, which isn't an old movie, that's a newer movie,
but it's based on it's silent and the whole bit. I get that. Yeah.
Yep. And so they were all there, and this actually kind of goes to show how little they were paying attention to the Oscar race. So they were all there, including Joey, and one of his friends were coming was over, and we're watching this movie, and it was so convincing. They honestly thought it was a real silent film, that it had come from 1912 or something like that.
Wow.
And they were still entertained, and then afterwards they were like, are there other silent films that are this good? And I said, oh, I can recommend one. It's called City Lights. You will. And they loved City Lights. And that movie, it's actually interesting that ending isn't as iconic, because that is one of the great endings. Not that the whole movie's good. And then when they get that ending where she touches his hand and she realizes it's him, and they look at each other, it's like, I don't know how your heart doesn't melt.
Well, you got him into Chaplin. Did you get him into Laurel and Hardy and Keaton and all of the greats? I mean, if they love that stuff, they would love the slapstick of Keaton and Laurel and Hardy and Ben Turpin. And oh my goodness, this is wonderful.
I did not bring over Laurel and Hardy, although I think they were familiar with Laurel and Hardy. I did bring over a couple Keatons, though.
Okay, you got to show them Cops. Cops is the ultimate Keaton.
Yep, it's a good one. It is a good one.
So,
So,
this is so refreshing to hear. You've made my day, Kevin.
oh well,
You've made my day.
I'm
and
happy
if
to
any
hear.
of my if many of my viewers are watching this right now, you know how I feel about you don't see my show. You probably haven't seen my show, Kevin, but I call basically anybody under 50 a young punk. So to me, you would be a young punk, but now you're a young punk that gets it. You're a young punk with class. So there you are.
Thanks. Well,
You've been initiated.
Yeah. So since we are talking about movie collection, because one of the things that I definitely liked was how you had a huge, just classic TV, the film and everything. Now, I don't quite have films and stuff, but I do have a massive DVD and Blu-ray collection. I have thousands, and to keep track of it, just so that you know that I'm not BSing you, I actually have a database of all
I'm looking at it on the monitor over here. Okay.
So here's the numbers, but like let's go down, and it's like, so here you have a couple Alice in Wonderlands, Aliens.
I see. My goodness, we have a fanatic here, ladies and gentlemen. Fanatic in the house.
All that jazz, Roy Schneider. Now here's something else. Over here, I keep track of what format I have it on, and yes, I do have a 3D TV. I actually run a 3D blog, and it's actually one of the biggest 3D blogs out there because I'm getting concerned about 3D movies being lost.
You should be, because it didn't catch on. So
it didn't. But you'll notice I also have Oscar. So I have shelves for Oscar-winning movies, and I put an X to indicate that that's where it is. Because the only thing that's good about a database is if you can use it to find stuff. And Criterion, I have a shelf for the Criterion collections, and I put the number there because if it's a Criterion movie, you're not alphabetizing them, so you got to put them by numbers. And as you can see here for the years, here's a movie from 1950, All About Eve, wonderful.
I see All the Right Moves. Gary Morton was a co-producer on that, Lucy's husband, so I see that. And
go down. Here we have Platoon, The Player.
Yep.
Playtime.
Yeah.
Jacques Tati, Mr. Hulot himself. And I do have some Pokemon movies.
I'll tell you how old I am. All right. I should have done this when computers came out, but I didn't. Everything that I have on film and tape is card cataloged in a Rolodex. And I still use it because I've got 1,500 reels of film and over 2,000 videotapes and probably close to 1,500 DVDs. And that's a rough estimate. And to start over and to put it in the computer, I don't have the patience to do it. So that's how I have mine. That's how old I am.
Yep. Now I'm curious, what do you think is the oldest movie that I have on Blu-ray is?
The oldest movie on Blu-ray? Well, they've put out a lot of the classics. So I don't know, Birth of a Nation, or should I go later than Silent Days?
Well, I mean, no. Silent Days is probably a good place. I do have Birth of a Nation.
Of course you do.
Yep, but it's on DVD. It's not on Blu-ray. No, this and this might really catch your eye because like my dad was kind of flabbergasted, and I have The Sheik.
Oh my god! What, that
1921?
I was close.
That was the oldest movie I have on Blu-ray. And then of course these databases are interesting because it sits above the Robert Downey Jr. Sherlock Holmes, and underneath
little different in style there in quality. Yeah. I'm very impressed. When the PR firm that's handling the distribution of the Stu Show documentary, gave me a list of requested interviews, they don't tell me who. I mean, they give me the name and they give me the name of the podcast or whatever, but that's all. Unless I go on the internet and do a little bit of research, I don't know who I'm talking to. And the only thing that I saw on you before we connected here was that you're a film critic, and I thought, okay, well, at least he's it's going to be like talking to Leonard Maltin, and you have far succeeded that. I mean, I've done a lot of these since the film was announced, and I'm already loving this. So what else do you want to know, Kevin?
Well, let's see here. What else do we want to know? Well, I'm kind of curious, since you knew Lucille Ball, what did you think of this movie?
Oh, you don't want me to go there, do you? Do you
So
really want me to go there when it was announced? I'll go there if you want, but you better get some earmuffs.
well, how about I
Okay.
share what I kind of thought about this movie first, and then we can see where we sit on it. Because
Okay.
I figured if there's
You
anyone I
can
want to
probably figure out where I'm going. So
I don't know. I've got an idea. So for the record, I liked this movie. But when people ask, "Oh, how did she do as Lucille Ball?" and it was like, well, I mean, it's weird because I don't have anything to compare to her in her personal life. So when she's not playing the Lucy character, when it's about her and Desi in real life, I'm not seeing Lucille Ball so much. I'm seeing Nicole Kidman because this is a very different Lucy than what you see on TV. Now, when they reenact certain sequences from the show, it's like, okay, that's fine. It's not great, but it's fine. I was frankly more impressed with Javier Bardem because he doesn't look or sound anything like Desi Arnaz, and yet he kind of convinced me he was. I do kind of agree with Amy Schumer's little Oscar joke when she said, Aaron Sorkin, he did the amazing thing. He made an I Love Lucy movie that wasn't funny. And it's like, yeah, that's
he started making excuses about that when the buzz came out that the movie was not good. And you're entitled to your opinion. Yeah. And again, you're the demographic that they went after.
Right.
That,
well,
my age. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I do a 5-star grading scale, and this movie got 3.5, which is
well, you're very generous.
Pretty good. Like I always say, like, yeah, 3.5 is like officially a recommendation. 3 and 2.5, it's like, yeah, that's kind of like towing the line. You really have to read the review to see if this is for you, and then anything under is not a recommendation. Now, but maybe you might be able to clarify since you knew Lucille Ball, maybe not during this time period, but you did know her.
Oh, I was a baby during the last part of it.
Yeah. So, but I'm kind of like, well, is this really what she was like? No. So I was fascinated because of like the politics and the story around it. But it didn't feel like an I Love Lucy movie, if that makes sense.
No, it was. I call this West Wing Desilu style. Everybody looked kind of like they kind of looked in the 50s, but they all sounded like they worked at the White House in the 90s. This is Aaron Sorkin's twisted view of what he felt went on during the 1950s, why he was commissioned to do this when he was totally unqualified and totally didn't want to do the research to get the true story, and totally took this 5 years of their lives and crammed it into a week, which we didn't need. Any one of those stories would have worked as a week. Are you sure you want to get into this? Because I'm very sensitive about this, and I'm really ticked off about it. And I was squirming while I was watching it. Now, granted, you can say, well, Stu, you knew her and you were there the last 10 years of her life and you're just too close to it. I mean, yes, you can fault me for that. But anybody out there who's a major Lucy fan, and that's pretty much a lot of people, let's talk about the demographics, though. They targeted your age group. They went after the 30-somethings, and you gave it 3.5 stars. So as far as Aaron Sorkin is concerned, he hit it out of the park. You liked the film. But anybody that did research on Lucille Ball and Desi Arnaz's life and career will see that this was not only truth-stretching, but there were lies throughout the whole thing. Things didn't happen. The whole ending of the film didn't happen. That's not how it went down. You know how it went down? He didn't put J. Edgar Hoover on the phone and let the audience hear it. First of all, how would you even know what J. Edgar Hoover sounded like? He did a much better thing. When it was time to introduce Lucille Ball, and they were scared to death because they didn't know how the audience was going to react. They were going to cancel the filming that week. First of all, they called it a taping. And there was no videotape in 1953. That was just one of hundreds of inaccuracies. It's stuff like that drives, it's like goes through me like a nail. They called Jess Oppenheimer the showrunner. That term did not happen until the 90s. He was the executive producer. Yes, he ran the show, but showrunner did not become a thing until the 90s. Now, most people out there watching the film would not pick up on stuff like that. But here are two beloved characters that if you've done research and you've read even just a couple of books on their lives and career, they're beloved. And the Lucy fans are like Star Trek fans. They are diehards. They know the career inside and out.
I figured by watching the movie.
Yeah, Kevin, there have been so many movies about their lives and careers, and I didn't like them all for various reasons. Some were better than others, but there was always something wrong with either the way they were portrayed or the timeline was screwed up or something. Those are like Academy Award winners compared to what Sorkin did, okay? If you knew the exact story and everything, what happened was I got sidelined, but what happened was when it was about to introduce Lucy to the audience, and this would have made a fine ending as well. He had talked to J. Edgar Hoover on the phone in his office the morning of the filming, and he wanted to make sure that all of the papers were going to clear her the next morning. There's no internet then. There's no CNN. There was nothing that could come across the wire 5 minutes before he goes out to do the warm-up and to introduce the cast to the audience. It was the next day via newspaper. J. Edgar Hoover assured him on the phone everything would be fine the next day. So with that in mind, when it was time to introduce Lucy, he went through a little short speech. I know you've been reading stuff in the papers. I know you think this. I know you think that. Just give us till tomorrow morning. We're going to have a press conference in our backyard at our ranch in Chatsworth. The press is coming. The papers are going to print it. But before we even do that, it's going to be announced that she was never a communist. And the line he said was, the only thing red about Lucille Ball is her hair. And even that's not legitimate. Now, that's a great line. It got a huge laugh and a standing ovation. Because Sorkin didn't come up with that in his own little mind, refused to use that and thought that this other ending would be a turnaround. The other thing that he did, which drove me crazy, was he had Lucy focused on that one scene, one little bit of business in that one scene. The whole week of rehearsal, she's like trying to figure out how to fix this scene, how to do this, how to do that. That was not the Lucy that I knew. If something didn't work when they first got it on their feet, the writers were there, Bob and Madeline, whatever, on the series that I worked on, it was worked out quickly. She would say, I think it would be better if we did this. And it wasn't mean or nasty. It was, I think it'd be better if I did this or this, unless you guys have a better line. Can you think of a better line? And on the spot, like all good comedy writers for television would do, they'd write the line and it was over and done with and they'd move on. She would never linger on something like that for a whole week. And I did 13 episodes with her, and I never saw any of that. So, all right, you got me all bent out of shape here, but fine. The point is,
well, I didn't mean to upset
I knew her
you.
For 10 years, and what you saw there was a simple fabrication. And then he said, "I'm not doing a documentary." See, he was starting to walk it all back when the buzz got out that this was not a great thing for Lucy fans. And you're online. Lucy fans hated this thing. And I was a chief crusader for it, and when the thing came out, I couldn't get through it. But, the way that he portrayed Lucy and Desi was bad enough. But the way he portrayed Bob and Madeline, especially Madeline, I don't know, if Madeline were alive today, she'd be saying, what did I ever do to Sorkin? That was not the Madeline Davis I knew. I got the feeling that Sorkin is a major misogynist, and he based the writer's room on the way he ran his writer's room for all of his dramas. That's not the way it was done back then. I knew Bob and Madeline very, very well, and I knew exactly how that show was run and written, and it was not portrayed in an accurate way. Now, again, somebody like you who's not into this the way the Lucy fans are could come away from this film saying, well, God, it was great. But my fear is people are going to think that was the truth. That was the way she acted. That was the way he acted. She was never that close with Frawley. They didn't go across the street and drink. Frawley and Desi did. But Lucy, the truth of that is, watch I Love Lucy. How many scenes are there between Lucy and Frawley? There's very few. It's usually Lucy and Ethel. She wasn't close to Vivian at first, but they got close as they each went through their respective divorces. I'm giving you a lot of stuff here. I'm giving you TMI. You don't need to know all of it. The point is, anybody who didn't know their career could walk away from that and say, yeah, that was a pretty good movie. But it was not the truth. It was and now he's saying it's not the truth. Lucy fans are appalled by it. And I don't blame the actors. I don't blame Nicole Kidman. I don't blame Javier Bardem. They were doing what they were told to do. It's just not a good film. Right. Thank God that the next thing that was released less than a month later was the Amy Poehler documentary, which was one of the best documentaries I have ever seen. Now, there was nothing new in it that I didn't know, but they found the audio tapes that each of them had used to record and write their respective books, and to have their lives and careers told in their own words was incredible. It was a fantastic way to do that. And as I said on my show, I said, I hope this is the end of it. I hope that we don't have any more documentaries about the two of them. This one ends on a very high note. Enough. Let them rest in peace. And then my film comes out, the film that CJ and the distributor is pushing the Lucy angle on it. But
which is really a small part of the movie.
Exactly. Thank you so much, Kevin. At least people are going to see the way Lucy really was, because it's not only in Lucy's own words in that part of our film, but you see her and you see her interact with me, and you say, this it's just wonderful the way the timing worked. This movie was supposed to come out, our film was supposed to come out prior to the pandemic, but the pandemic screwed everything up, and the timing couldn't be better now, because you got that Aaron Sorkin piece of trash, followed by the wonderful Amy Poehler documentary, which I had my doubts about too when I heard she was in charge of it, and I had to apologize and rescind and everything on my show because I was bad-mouthing her beforehand, and I had to eat my words happily. And now you've got this where you're going to see Lucy live and in the flesh and interacting with me. And it's, the timing is just wonderful. Okay, I'm done. I got to take a deep breath and come down. But you asked for it. You asked for it. You got it, Kevin.
No. Well, I asked for a very specific reason. And I'm saying this, even though I like the movie, because some people because here's the thing, my positive review, some people said well, a lot of Lucy fans don't like it. So why did you like it? And I'm like, well, here's the thing. First of all, I fully understand this is a fictional movie. It's kind of like watching.
You're a movie critic and you've got a brain. Okay.
Right.
The dumbing down of this country is incredible. And my big fear is people are going to walk away thinking that's how it really was.
And that was the other reason. The other reason, because I also understand that sometimes people watch these fictional movies and they say, this is how it is. And it's like, now, I did want you to come on and talk about the movie you were in, which we have done, and it's, of course, wonderful, but it was I did want someone who knew her, who actually spent time walking next to her shoes, who had conversations. It's how does someone who really knows the person, how do they view this? Because I think it's a good thing to show that, look, Aaron Sorkin, in my opinion, made a very entertaining movie, but you don't go to movies like this for the facts. You go there for entertainment, and
I get it. I get it. And you're certainly entitled to your opinion. I don't agree with it, but again, he targeted your audience when they were having the screenings before the official release. Nobody under 50 was allowed to go. And I was insulted by that. I was highly insulted by that. When I grew up, it's at 18 to 49. Well, now the people that made that age range demographic up, 18 to 49, they're all my age now, and all of a sudden it's now 18 to 64.
I think it is a mistake
but he succeeded. You like the film, you're 36. He succeeded. He did what he set out to do. So screw me. My opinion means nothing. Okay.
No, your opinion is very valuable. That's why I wanted it.
I appreciate it, but he succeeded in getting you and your age group to like it. Did Katie like it? Did your wife like it?
She did like it, but and please be easy on her. She afterwards we were talking about and how much we liked it, and we liked the dialogue, and it was interesting. And she's like, I didn't know it was like that. And I'm like, well, hold on. It probably wasn't. Like, we're basing it because it's a movie and we're enjoying the
Okay, you
movie,
see,
but
and
it
you know, I've
probably
only known your
wasn't
wife
like
a
that.
couple of weeks, and she friended me on Facebook and says, "Hey, I see you're going to be on my husband's show." You know, she's a sweetheart. She's an
Oh,
absolute sweetheart. But
she's
see
absolutely.
how easily manipulated she was by that. She thought that that's the way it was, and that's my fear. You got to put a big thing at the beginning. This is a fictional account. This is Aaron Sorkin's version of reality at the
Well,
beginning, and it probably, because I hated it so much, every 15 minutes that needs to be flashed.
well, you know what they used to do, and I don't see them doing it anymore. They used to put before these movies, the following is based on actual events. The key word being based.
Yeah,
Like,
and I think it's probably in the end credits below craft services. It's probably there.
now they put it way at the end of the credits. You're
Yeah,
right.
I wasn't being funny there. I think that's where it is.
Yeah.
And
So
half the world doesn't sit through the end credits. The second the movie is over, they're in their cars because they have to go pay the babysitters. Although this was a streaming thing, it had a couple of weeks on.
well, we saw it in theaters.
So it could get nominated for Academy Awards, which I would have vomited at anything one.
We went to see it in theaters because we're theater purists. If we can see it in a movie theater, we're going to see it in the theater.
Well, you're a movie critic. That's the way you see movies if you're in that line of work. I don't judge you for that.
Unfortunately, I saw yours on my dinky 57-inch 4K TV.
CJ did want to get some theatrical distribution on it, and the pandemic hit, so it unfortunately had to go straight to streaming. But I think in the 2 years that we've been in this situation, people have gotten used to that, and I think I'm hoping that the theater industry does bounce back somewhat. It's slow right now. Unless you're Captain America or Spider-Man, though, nobody's going to go see you in a theater except you. You'll go. Yeah. I find all superhero movies have the same beginning, middle, and end, and I find them all totally useless. But I'm 65, okay? I'm sure you love them all, right?
Actually, I'm going to say this. Not a lot of them have gotten negative reviews, but very few of them have gotten enthusiastic praise. And if I don't see another superhero movie for another 10 years, I'd probably be okay at this point.
I'm going to give you what I call on my show 2 seconds of applause. Thank you.
Thank you. I
really like new people. I met your wife first. Now I'm meeting you. You guys have to come up here and see our place. You're officially invited to the Pine Mountain Club compound, Kevin.
All right. We will probably take you up on that offer. For the record, the Batman that's out right now, that feels like a real movie. I gave that 4.5 stars, but Spider-Man No Way Home.
Beck, who's the animation historian for the show, is on my show.
I love Jerry Beck. I love
Jerry
Beck.
The Batman movie.
I would love to meet. I'd love to meet him sometime because I'm a huge animation fan. Actually, this YouTube channel is more about animation than film. But I've got his books and I read his blogs, and I think he does a very valuable service, especially trying to preserve these old animated shorts and stuff that studios either forget about or they kind of want to forget about them because some of them aren't politically correct anymore. And he comes in and he's like Leonard Maltin, and maybe you even, where it's like, no, these are important. I mean,
they are a product of the time.
Yeah, they're part
of our history. It's part of our culture. We can't ignore the past.
Yeah. So one of my treasured sets, collections of DVDs, is the Walt Disney Treasures, and that's all of the.
That's Leonard's
Donald. Yeah, that's Leonard's set. All the Mickey Silly Symphonies, and of course the prize jewel out of all of them is the On the Front Line set, which is the World War II propaganda cartoons. And the reason that is the prize jewel is not only is it fascinating to see how we were like galvanizing the country to support the war, but because of where we are right now, I don't think those cartoons are ever going to be re-released.
Well, this country has gone woke nuts, and it's got to stop, because if it continues, it's going to continue to divide this country like it's never been divided before. We're already that way. I don't want to get political with you. That's not what we're here for. No, but it's sickening the way things are going, and it's just totally out of control. And something's got to get stopped, because now it is interfering with the stuff that we like, and that's ridiculous.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I don't want to get too political. Either. Right. I mean,
anyway, if you want me to put you in touch with Jerry, I'm happy to do that. So we can talk after the show, and whatever you want, I'll help you out with.
That'd Oh, that'd be wonderful. I'm sure he would love to come on a show that gets
Oh, he would love you.
like it's what
He would love.
4
Look,
viewers.
like I said, I get this list from the public relations firm. You got to do this interview. You got to do this and this and this, and that's all I've been doing for 2 weeks. And I'm happy to help because CJ is a brilliant filmmaker, and I want to help advance his career. And some of these things have been great. Some of them have been okay. This is wonderful. You're one of us. You get this. And there's not enough people out there, at least in my mind, that I know about. And you're the ones that have to keep this going after we leave the planet. So I'm whatever I can do to help you get people my age in there with you to talk about this stuff, I'm willing to do. So
yeah, no, I appreciate that. And actually, I'm even a little bit more concerned. Not to get political, but you said something that kind of registered where it's like, how the climate has changed and stuff. I remember years ago that there was this movie that came out called JFK that I loved. I gave it 5 stars. It was one of my favorite movies, and people would tell me, well, that's like not true. And this, I'm like, of course it's bullshit, but it's entertaining. But as these, how should I say, the misinformation gets out there, now you kind of look at a movie like JFK and it's like, geez, is it really so harmless? Like at the time, it was like, well, is it my fault if there are stupid people who think this is real? And it's like,
well, it is. It's everybody's fault because the dumbing down of this country has gotten worse over the years. And it actually started in the 90s with Geraldo's talk show when people started throwing chairs, and then it kind of elevated to the Jerry Springer show. Then we got the E! Channel with the Kardashians and all this other crap. And people started Honey Boo Boo, and everybody started to buy into this. And then all of a sudden, trailer trash was the number one thing. It was, front and center again in this country, and the educational system started lapsing. I used to, when I did audience warm-ups, I would play games with the audience, and I'd get them on their feet, and I'd say, name a part of the human body that's 3 letters, right? And so, you'd get ear, and you get lip, and you get toe, and somebody would stand up and say butt, right? And then I would just stare at the audience. They'd laugh just like you. And I said, B-U-T, butt. Isn't our educational system wonderful? And this was back in the 90s. So this is when it all started. Something happened. Something happened to change the whole intelligence level of this country on a downward spiral, and we still haven't recovered. Right. There are people in Congress that should not be in Congress, and that's all I'm going to say. Okay? Yeah. Let's move on.
That's all we'll say. All right. Well, let's move on, but let's kind of revisit a topic, because I think this section might even get cut out and made into its own little video later on down the road. So
a soundbite. I'm ready. I'm ready for my soundbite, Mr. DeMille.
You're ready for your soundbite. So this actually hit while we were talking. Someone texted me and I looked it up. One of the things we talked about at the beginning of the show, and one of the reasons you do what you do, is because we like vintage, whether it be television or music or literature or movies, and we want it to be preserved, and we're concerned about it. Like, you were dumpster diving when TV stations were throwing away very valuable stuff because it just wasn't making the money. And one of my concerns, and this is my generation's concern, is that some of this old stuff might even be forgotten, because if you put Frank Capra's A Hole in the Head on HBO Max, what if no one watches it? And Warner Brothers Discovery decides, well, we're going to delete it from our hard drive because no one watches it. And then that movie, and it's a wonderful movie, gets lost forever. Well, one of the people who is very concerned about this is, of course, Martin Scorsese, the great Martin Scorsese. And he just announced this, like, really not too long ago. He is going to be having a virtual cinema for classic films. He is going to be he's calling it a free virtual screening room, and it's going to start on May 9th with the rom-com, the 1945 rom-com, I Know Where I'm Going, starring Wendy Hiller and Roger Livesey. And I'm going to try to do my best Martin Scorsese voice here. He says, "We're looking forward to making these beautiful restorations available to a wide audience.
Faster.
Many of these presentations will feature restorations that are rarely seen, with myself and other filmmakers sharing why these films are important, how they impacted our lives, and why it's crucial they be preserved."
Is my 2 seconds of applause working? There you go.
Thank you. So anyway, I saw that and I was like, well, if he if he likes classic TV, oh, and let me show the article. Of course.
Okay, wait, I got to put my glasses back on and look at the side monitor where you're projecting it.
Yeah, we have to show the
article. I can't read the print, but I see his picture and I see Vulture at the top there.
Yeah. So I saw this, and at first I was like, yeah, but this also kind of got me wondering, like, is this going to be the future of classic TV and cinema, where the studios aren't interested in putting it on their streaming services, and it's going to be up to like the Scorseses and the Spielbergs and the Stews of the world to save this stuff and keep it on? Because, you know, on your own YouTube channel, like, I noticed like this thing called Busting Loose, and this is a sitcom that has apparently been lost to time. I couldn't find it anywhere.
Well, I put those up for Mark Rothman, who was the producer and the creator of those shows. I don't promote that stuff. Just when producers have a rough time getting stuff off, you bring up a good point. There's an example that was produced at Paramount in the 70s, and Mark is very proud of that series, even though it only ran 8 episodes. But he can't get Paramount to do anything with it. So he gave me his 3/4-inch office copies of all the shows, and I digitized them for him and put them up on my YouTube channel just so that he could tell people, hey, here's my work, since Paramount is not interested. And you bring up a good point. Not everything is out on DVD. As much as collectors want every single thing, the studios are not going to spend money on them unless they know that they're going to recoup the money back. It's not even a question of breaking even. They have to show a profit. And DVDs and Blu-ray sales, as you know, being a critic and being in the business, are in the toilet now. People are not buying DVDs and Blu-rays the way they did 10 years ago because of streaming. Streaming killed my video business for 30, I said it's more than that. It's 40 years now. Since 1979, I've been selling classic TV public domain kinescopes from the 50s on home video, first on beta, then VHS, then DVD. If I get an order a month, that's a gold mine for me now. Nobody's buying this stuff anymore. And consequently, what's happening is you bring up the point that, yes, if the movie ends up not getting streamed, you may see it disappear from there because of a little thing called cloud storage space. And that's expensive. And with a studio like Paramount that has hundreds and millions and hours of television and film, you think they're going to put Busting Loose up there for however many hours it takes up when they can put, you know, The Odd Couple. I'm just thinking of another Paramount feature film or something. Give me The Godfather. All right, some Robert Evans here. Just something that would take up the same space and that people would click on. And if somebody is clicking on Paramount Plus's advertise-based level tier, they're going to make money on top of that too. You know, it's all based on subscriptions and advertising. So yeah, that's possible. That's why I like still collecting tangible stuff. That's why I still buy Blu-rays. That's why I still buy DVDs. I don't buy them as much as I used to, because I pretty much have everything I want. But if something comes out and it's available on streaming and it's available on DVD, I'm going to buy the DVD or the Blu-ray. But I think, Kevin, you and I are a minority here. Again, because of the laziness of this country. Why do I want to get up out of my chair? Why do I want to walk to my shelf? Why do I want to take the DVD? Why do I want to open it? Why do I want to turn on the player? Why do I want to take out the DVD and put it in the player and press play and then sit down when I can pick up my Roku, hit Netflix, and go right to the movie I want?
Right.
Lazy. Lazy.
It's incredibly lazy, and people don't even realize what they're giving up. You know, it almost kind of reminds me of this old joke. Steve Martin was hosting the Oscars, and he was celebrating Mickey Rooney. He's like, "Where are you, Mickey?" And Mickey's way in the back. He's like, "Hi, Mickey." And he says, "I'm sorry you're way back there, but we've got Vin Diesel here." And it kind of feels like that, where it's like where's our first Oscar winner for Best Director, Skippy? It might have been the second. I don't know. It's like, where's that movie Skippy? And it's like, oh, There you are. Sorry you're not on Paramount Plus. We've got Clifford, the big red dog. Gotta make room for Clifford.
It brings to mind this was a while ago, at least 15 years ago, but it's so typical because things were changing then. Ray Walston passed away in 2003 or 2000, somewhere around there. And this is a man whose career began on Broadway with Damn Yankees. He was the star of one of my favorite classic TV sitcoms, My Favorite Martian. I nearly got to work with him on Silver Spoons. He ended up playing Aaron Gray's uncle on the season after I left the show. I would have loved to have met him. And when he died, the obituary said, "Cranky judge on picket fences." That's all it said.
Wow.
It didn't say anything else. Ask somebody your age who Ed Sullivan was. Now, please tell me you knew who Ed Sullivan was.
Yeah, he ran a late night talk show host, and all of the hottest acts would go there. That's where the Beatles got their
I'll give you half credit. It was a Sunday night at 8 o'clock show for 22 years on CBS, from the time television started until Norman Lear took over television in the early 70s. It wasn't late night, it was prime time, but you had the gist of it. But you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, but most people wouldn't know that much.
No, well, most people are not television historians.
Yeah, well, in all fairness, I'm more of a movie person, but
yeah, I know that. I know. It was bad example. But if I said, let me think of something really obscure here. Do you know who Charles Lane is?
I know the name. I will say that, but I don't know really what he did, to be honest.
Okay, all right. But you see, this is my viewers right now watching this program are going, ah! But it's okay. It's okay.
Yeah.
You can learn. Okay,
I always love learning.
You're a movie guy. I'm trying. See, you're into movies more than I am. Let me think of something else here. Give me a second. Give me a second here. How about? No, I don't think you would know. How about Margaret O'Brien?
Okay, now that name I am not familiar with.
Okay, all right. She was a child star in the 30s and 40s, and she's also in our documentary.
Oh, well, remember what I said about names.
Yeah, that's true. All right, let's move on, okay? Because we're getting into an uncharted territory here that's going to make both of us look bad. Keep going. Do something. Ask me something else.
So, I guess the original point, are you, when you hear a story about like what Scorsese is doing, does this make you feel hopeful that there's people out there that's going to keep it going, or does it make you feel concerned?
The only thing that's troubling about this is Scorsese is older than both of us, and he's not going to be around forever. What we need is somebody like you to do this, somebody your age, somebody like C.J. Wallace, a filmmaker who did the documentary. That would be encouraging. To find out somebody 10 years older than me is thinking of doing this is great. We need it, but it's not going to be long standing unless he's got people your age to keep it going. So I applaud the idea, but I'd rather hear it from somebody 36 instead of 76.
All right, that's good to know. So anyway, let's see here. I think we are getting near the end of our discussion, so we'll go back to the movie briefly. So we've already discussed how, unfortunately, it won't be in theaters. It's a shame. Here's the thing. I don't say this very often about movies that I get free screeners to. I probably would have gone to have bought tickets for this, even though I technically got to see it for free.
God bless you.
Yeah, my print review has not gone up yet, but you guys are getting 4 out of 5 stars. So
4 out of 5. Is my high squeaky voice get a star off for that? Is that?
No, that's what it felt like. I mean,
listen, 4 out of 5 is great. That's what my channel gets on the Roku channel. My Stu Show channel on Roku has 4 out of 5. I'll take it. That's great.
Well,
glad you enjoyed it.
Some 5-star movies I've given 5 stars to is like The Godfather, Casablanca, Lord of the Rings, Return of the King, JFK, Lawrence of Arabia, Gone with the Wind. If you can make a case for your movie being as good as those,
I'm delighted I got 4 stars when you put it that way. But if you gave Plan 9 from Outer Space 5 stars, I'd be a little concerned. So.
Oh no, I gave Plan Katie would have given you 5 stars. So
I see it. I see it.
she's always giving 1 star more than I'm giving. No, actually, Plan 9 from Outer Space, I gave 0 stars. But if you read the review, it's like, look, I have to give it 0 stars. There's, technically speaking, there's nothing of value here, and yet I cannot honestly look you in the straight face with a straight eye and say you shouldn't see it, because it does have a separate value that is beyond the stars.
Yeah. I've got a lot of guilty pleasures. Smokey and the Bandit, one of the worst, stupidest films ever made. But I love Jackie Gleason, and I love Burt Reynolds' attitude toward him in the whole film. But it is a stupid movie. It's a guilty pleasure. I just love watching it.
Oh, one of my favorites. One of my favorite comedies to watch is UHF with Weird Al Yankovic. It's totally dumb. It's completely dumb. And then what's actually really sad is most kids don't even know what a UHF station is anymore. So it's really old. But
what did you think of Blazing Saddles?
Oh, I love Blazing. That's actually a 5-star movie. That's a 5-star movie.
Katie, bring him up to the house. You guys are in Southern California, aren't you?
Yes, we are.
Okay.
Actually, I'm going to share this story. Hopefully, Katie doesn't mind. I guess I'll find out if she does.
You'll find out. You'll see the number of stars she gives in the lower left corner.
Yeah. Well, there was a week, and she was feeling depressed. It was just one of those things, and she was, and one of my things is, like, the only way I know how to cure depression is A, be there with them in the same room, and B, if you can, watch a funny movie. And I picked Blazing Saddles, which she had never watched. Now, I suspect she would have liked it more had she not been depressed, but we're watching it, and she's sitting there, tears in her eyes, and at random times, like, I would say every 7 minutes, she's going like, and it's like you could see the room being lit up, like, it wasn't curing the problem, but
it was
helping. And it's like, and this is why I'm especially disturbed that comedy is under attack by people, because it's like you're making fun of someone, and it's like, first of all, comedy can say a lot about us as a society, but also we need to laugh. We need to laugh.
And once again, I see Katie's giving us smiles or faces or something there. Bill Maher did a whole thing on comedy and being able to take a joke and everything, and he based it on Will Smith and the Academy Awards, which we don't have to go into. I did a whole rant on my show, and as you can see from this past hour, I'm very capable of ranting.
Yes, you are.
But we do need to laugh. People have to realize that it's okay to say stuff. This woke business has got to stop. I just want to say one other thing on Blazing Saddles. I was 17 when it came out, and my dad and I went to the theater to see it. And this was in the days when profanity was just starting to be accepted in movies. You could never swear. Patton and MASH, I think, were the first 2 movies I saw, and I was like 13 when those come out. And I was horrified when the F word came out, and when Patton slapped that soldier and called him an SOB, and it's like, oh my God, you can do this now. And then George Carlin came out with the 7 words that you can't say on television, which was one of the funniest routines I had ever heard. Carlin and Richard Pryor really kind of revolutionized comedy and made that kind of shock comedy more acceptable. But I'm telling you, when we went to Blazing Saddles, there was not one dry eye in that theater. Nobody was offended. And, they used the N-word like crazy in it, but it was white people using it and looking stupid saying it. You could never make a movie like Blazing Saddles today because the woke patrol would censor it. God forbid a dumb white person uses that word and the black person turns it around and makes them look even stupider, which was Mel Brooks's intention from the get-go. You could never get away with that. But we laughed so hard when that movie came out, and the theater was in such hysterics. I had to go back, I think, twice to see it again to hear the parts that I missed.
Yeah,
and
no, Blazing Saddles.
Go ahead.
Blazing Saddles really shows how stupid racism is when
Exactly. But see, the point is, Kevin, nobody sees it that way. The woke patrol today doesn't see it that way. It's offensive. It needs to be banned. The last time Turner Classic Movie ran it, they ran it with a disclaimer. And that just infuriated me. I was so angry. It's like, can't anybody take a joke anymore? It's ridiculous.
Well,
and again,
in all fairness,
go ahead.
In all fairness, if someone said, well, look, would you rather us not air it or would you rather air it with a disclaimer? I'd probably pick the latter option. But I did think it was strange when I went to stream it on HBO Max. I have the Blu-ray, but I mean, look, if it is more convenient to just stream it at that point, I'll do it. I have nothing against streaming per se. But they did put a disclaimer. It was a African-American woman film critic, and she was putting the film into context and explaining that the N-word was not being used in a way that meant this. It was showing how dumb racism was. And it was kind of a weird thing for me because it's like, if this is what it takes to keep the movies here, I'm all for it. But on the other hand,
I got that argument when I went on the rant about it on my show, what you're talking about here, that whole thing. But it took a black woman to do this.
Well, but my bigger question is...
And the black people love it, just like they love the old Amos and Andy TV show. Yeah. I'm sick of white people telling the world how the other people think. I'm sick and tired of it.
Well, my bigger question was, but you have to watch the movie for 5 minutes. 5 minutes and you know what this is, and you realize you realize how it's being used and what's going on. You realize pretty quickly this is a satire and it's poking fun at racism and everything. But we have to put the disclaimer on. Like, I don't know. I would personally prefer save the disclaimers for, say, the Donald Duck cartoon Deferrer's Face, which maybe requires a little bit more education.
I don't think there should be a disclaimer on that either. Again, it goes back to the culture and the product of its time. And, and again, I just think you start doing that, and then you're going to find disclaimers on everything. Heinz ketchup, warning, do not pour the ketchup from the top up. I mean, you're going to get disclaimers on it's ridiculous. There has to, you got to draw the line and just end it. And if people can't deal with it, then get off the planet. I'm sorry. I don't know if we want to continue this discussion or not, but it just infuriates me, some of this stuff. And they start messing with our culture and with our history. People are trying to cancel Lincoln. Really?
Yeah,
really?
Lincoln of all people.
Really?
I just got my...
Who freed the slaves? We're going to cancel this man? And again, it's white people. It's white people doing this because they're afraid that they're going to get climbed on. It's not the black people. It's the white people.
Well, me, I don't know.
That's my sermon for today, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for tuning in.
Well, I laughed when I picked up my Chippendales Rescue Rangers Blu-ray, and it... Beautiful set. On the back, there's a little box that says, "Warning: this has outdated cultural depictions," and it's like 1989.
So I didn't even watch that show. That's the 80s. I was in my 30s when that show was on. That's the 80s. That's not that long ago.
No.
Kevin, I'm having a stroke here. God.
I hope not, my friend.
Show the documentary. You'll like it. If you like my rambling over the last hour, you'll love the movie.
Yes, and you might also enjoy Stu Show. He's talked to a lot of classic people.
That's the front of my website right there.
There you have Dick Van Dyke, who I actually got to see do the candlelight vigil at Disneyland one year, and we have Betty White, and look, it's Ed Asner, Carl Fredricksen himself.
Ed is in the film a lot.
Is that Dr. Demento right there?
That is Dr. Demento.
Dr. Demento. I knew that was Dr. Demento. Okay, how many 35-year-olds
didn't know Charles Lane, but he knew Dr. Demento, folks.
Well, of course. That's where did Weird Al Yankovic get
I'll tell you, when we get done here, Kevin, you Google Charles Lane image, and when you see him, you'll know exactly who he is. I promise you.
You know what? I'm going to... Let's just do this right now. Charles
Lane.
Charles Lane, American character actor. Images. Let's go here and him.
There you go.
Him. Okay.
Gentlemen, the defense rests.
The defense rests. Well, anyway, folks, we have talked for a little over an hour. I mean, even though this was all supposed to be about the Stu Show documentary,
I know CJ is going to kill me. He's going to kill me over this.
Well, you can
and
tell.
So is the film's distributor. But what the hell, you know?
Well, what the heck? When I post my printed review, we'll link to it below. You can buy it on like Apple, YouTube, this very platform. The only one we don't recommend you buy it from, personal opinion, this is not the studio saying this is not Stu saying this, but everyone who knows me knows my opinion. Don't buy it from Amazon. I don't like them. And in fact, based on this episode, maybe you shouldn't buy it from them just because they made Being the Ricardos.
I'll tell you off the air, I'll tell you a story off the air. I'll just put it that way.
Okay, well, so make sure you and check out his show, and also, by the way, check out his archives. He talks to Mark Maxwell and Alexis Hunter, Jerry Beck. He did talk to Dr.
He's
Demento.
Just reading the first page that comes up in the archives, folks.
Oh, well, here, let's go to 14.
No. I've had Bob Barker on the show. I've had Jonathan Winters. I've had Ed Asner many times. Dick Van Dyke, Shirley Jones. The list goes on and on.
Oh, Shirley Jones.
You can search the archives for the star of your choice, and if they had anything to do with television, chances are I've had them on the show.
Mickey Mouse Club Mouseketeer, Lonnie Burr. Ooh, Ryan would love that.
I have. He finds Lonnie. I've had Cubby and I've had Bobby, and I'm gonna have Sharon. Mouseketeer Sharon is gonna be on this summer. She's coming in Reno to Pine Mountain Club to do the show in person.
Nice. I also have DVDs of the Mickey Mouse Club.
Which one? The 50s or the 80s or the 70s?
The
Which
50s.
one?
The 50s. This is the original black and white. Okay. And there's one that's dedicated to Mickey Mouse Club in general, and then there's one that's dedicated to Annette, of course, because
you've got the tins. You've got the metal
tins.
Yes. You know how much those are going for now that they're out of print? I paid $60, $70 each for them. They're going for hundreds on eBay.
So I was buying those like the very first set that I saw at Costco. I bought them.
You must have been a teenager when those were out.
I was a teenager when they came out.
You're just a kid. You're just a punk.
In fact, the More Silly Symphonies one, that's a special copy I have because it is signed by Disney archivist legend Dave Smith.
Who's no longer with us. When
I worked for Disney, I went to the archives frequently, and he was always
he was
there.
Great. He would open them up and show you anything. He was a great guy.
Yep. And one day I finally had the courage, and he walked down. I said, "Mr. Smith, could you please sign this?" And I was like 18 or something. I was like really shy, and he laughed and he signed it, and it was like just the entrance of that place is cool. How they have the Narnia wardrobe on one side, and they have like a lot of the awards they won, and it's like
the whole Burbank lot is cool. The whole Burbank lot is like a film factory. It's less like a studio and more like a massive toy store with the names way they name the streets, and it's just really cool.
I've even decorated our room similar. We have that signed Ben Affleck poster.
Forgive me for not looking here. I'm looking over here so I can see what he's showing.
Sure.
Yeah.
I've got signed by Ben Affleck, Zoe Saldana, pretty much the whole cast except Brendan Gleeson. I got my wife this Back to the Future animation.
You got your wife on the wall too? No,
well, those are wedding photos, but like I got her the Doc Brown animation cell from Back to the Future, the series, signed by Christopher Lloyd.
Oh, that's great.
There's a Simpsons poster right there signed by Matt Groening, and he did a Bart Simpson sketch for us, and you can't see it here, but there's a Garfield animation cell signed by Jim Davis.
So impressed, and I'm delighted that somebody half my age is into this stuff. You have no idea how much you've made my day.
Yeah, now you should see the autograph box, like where I have the Dustin Hoffman's, the John Voight's signature, the Leonardo DiCaprio. Like I actually, because when I was younger, and I still do this, and it still works, I actually write them letters, and I include a picture with like a self-addressed stamped envelope, and I asked for an old-fashioned autograph. My first autograph success, and I was really proud of this one because I wrote a letter to Alan Rickman with a Harry Potter photo. Of course, Alan Rickman's done some fine work outside of Harry Potter, but I was 13 at the time, so that's what I cared about. I hadn't seen Die Hard yet. And now that I've seen Die Hard, it's like, why didn't he get an Oscar nomination for that? But anyway, and I was warned after I had sent it out by people who were doing autograph collecting, oh, that was a mistake because Alan Rickman does not sign Harry Potter merchandise because it winds up on eBay. And I remember thinking like, oh, that makes sense. Yeah, no, he's probably not going to sign that. Maybe he'll sign a regular photo and send it back.
I sense a butt coming.
You sense a butt coming. He did sign the photo.
But this one was legitimate butt.
Yeah, this is a legitimate butt. He did sign the Harry Potter photo, and he actually sent a personal note, and he said, I really was moved by your letter.
Oh, that's wonderful, Kevin. That's great.
And when I shared that story with people, they said, wow, you must have wrote an amazing letter because some people have actually like, yeah, we sent a Harry Potter photo of Snape, and he sent it back along with another stock photo signed because he doesn't sign Harry Potter stuff.
But he did for you.
He did for me.
Wow.
And so, for the record, everyone, no, it is not for sale.
No, safe deposit box at the bank.
Yes, safe deposit box at the bank. So, anyway, we might have to you on the show again, and next time we shouldn't even have.
No, next time we'll talk about the documentary. Next
time we'll talk about the documentary. At that point, it'll be out. Although I kind of look forward to just like talking about our favorite movies.
That I'm serious. If you want to come up here and do my show sometime, we could do that here too. We can,
I would love.
Bob Hope, Milton Berle, they used to trade off doing each other's shows back in the 50s. We could do some of that here if you want.
Yeah, I would definitely love it. If you don't mind me doing a vlog, like, oh boy, like that room looks like, oh. When I watch that documentary and you're looking at all those films, it's like, oh my gosh.
Chatsworth, we've moved since then, and I had a custom made room, and I'm not in a position right now because these are actually stationary cameras. These are studio cameras. If I did this via the webcam, I'd turn around and take you in and show you. But maybe I can do your show another time with a webcam instead of the professional camera, and then I could give you a tour of this place. Or that just bring Katie and come up here for God's sake.
We will definitely do that. All right, folks. That is our show. Thank you so much to Stu for joining us and staying about 16 minutes longer than he was, by his publicist encouraged to stay. So we appreciate that. And
my pleasure.
Hopefully we will talk again. In the meantime, for everyone, thank you for joining us. And you know the drill. What do you think about any of this? We would love to know. Heck, have any of you seen Stu's story? Hopefully by the time you see this video, the movie will come out and you could have seen it. What did you think of the movie? We'd love to know. Comment below. Like, favorite, share, subscribe, and as always, flame responsibly. Have a good one.